Lately, I've been playing this neat game called Divinity Original Sin 2, and I've come across some interesting ways to get temporary party members into the final act of the game. By temporary party members, I'm talking about characters like Higba, who you can pick up and control once they start following you, much like a summon. This does not include characters like Peeper, that just follow you and do their own thing. Before we start breaking the game, let's cover a few things. First and foremost, this contains spoilers for most of the game, up to when you arrive in arcs. Also, this is extremely glitchy. Save often. I've only tested this on the PC version. Some of these may work on console, but not everything will because some of these tricks require a mouse and keyboard. There's also other tricks that work better with the controller, so having both is ideal. With that out of the way, let's talk about those tricks. We'll go over the Apportation spell first. It's a spell that lets you pick up an item from a distance even if it's out of bounds. The thing about Apportation is that it's not available from most skill vendors. So let's try crafting it. To get the scroll, all you need is a high quality air essence, a rope, and a sheet of paper. Once you have the scroll, combine that with a blank air skill book to get the Apportation skill book. Let's learn that real quick and test it out. Picking up these barrels is no problem. Besides crafting the Apportation skill book, you can check certain vendors like the stranded merchant with a hat over at Sada's caravan. He's one of the few vendors that can carry it. Regarding temporary party members, they have limits. You can't access their inventory directly, and they can't interact with most objects. With a controller, there is an easy way to give them items. Just add items to their hotbar. This includes things like skill books and equipment, so you can still gear them up. The equipment will boost their otherwise static skill levels. The hotbar also lets you access their skill menu. When using a mouse and keyboard, their hotbar is locked. You can give them items via reverse pickpocketing, but only usable ones like skill books will appear. You also can't organize the hotbar. If you've given them equipment they are no longer using, you can get it back from them. Let's give Higba over here the Mask of the Shapeshifter and then equip a different helmet. Then go to one of your characters, unequip their helmet, and give them the Mask of the Shapeshifter. It'll take it from Higba's inventory. If you didn't unequip your helmet first, your old helmet would have transferred to Higba's inventory. These next couple of tricks are glitches used in speedruns in order to skip entire areas. I'll go over the relevant tricks here, but I'll also link to Worldly's absolutely fantastic speedrun guide in the description if you want more details. As far as I understand, both of these tricks require a mouse and keyboard. The first speedrun technique I'll show is what's known as the Queue Shikifling. This really fun to say technique allows us to traverse long distances by tossing a teleporter pyramid all the way over, as long as the destination is in the character's line of sight. First, open the inventory and find a teleporter pyramid. Press the key to queue in action, which for some godforsaken reason is the right shift key by default. While holding the queuing key, you'll click and drag the pyramid where you want it to go. You'll then click and drag the pyramid again, but release the queuing key. The pyramid should be tossed over there. You can now use the other pyramid, teleport on over, and you're here! The next speedrun technique is the Item Fling. You can lag the game to toss an item like a teleporter pyramid across a wall or some other out-of-bounds area. Let's go to the game menu and select Options. Under Graphics Options, check Frame Cap Enabled. Make sure the frame cap is set absurdly low, like 10 to 15. Then accept your fate, resume the game, and see that the game is exceptionally choppy. That means it worked! You can move the pyramid around the ground like any other item. While the game is lagging, you can release the mouse button and then quickly move the cursor to change where the pyramid actually goes, past this wall. Beautiful! Go to your inventory and use the teleporter pyramid to teleport to the out-of-bounds one. You'll then see where our tossed pyramid landed. This doesn't seem like a useful place, but we did make it out of bounds. You can't pick up the pyramid as is in this state, but something like Apportation can do the trick. And now we've gotten our pyramid back. The first temporary party member is Higba, a sorcerer and tinkerer who is on the run after being accused of some murders in Driftwood. His quest involves escorting him safely out of Driftwood undetected by magisters. Once he gets far enough away from Driftwood, his quest completes and he'll hide in his favorite barrel. Escort quests work by tracking when a follower goes from a source area to a destination area. The quest completes when they cross that threshold. These quests break when the follower changes areas while not in a follower state. They will follow you indefinitely as long as you don't bring them back. Higba himself has a little bit of a delay when crossing that threshold before his quest completes. The simplest way to break his scripting is to use a waypoint to go to the Lady Vengeance, go below decks, and then quickly talk to Higba. Tell him to unfollow you, and re-follow you to keep him. Higba's pretty good for level 9. He has good intelligence and enough strength and finesse to equip most armor. He also has a whopping 7 in Hydro and a nice 2 in Arrow, so he's a natural Hydro Arrow mage. As a bonus, he comes with 4 free skills: Favorable Wind, Nether Swap, Electric Discharge, and Shocking Touch. You can double up on Memorize skills and Innate skills, so go wild with double Nether Swap. A very immersive thing that happens during Higba's quest is that NPCs will comment about his escape. It gets even better. When Tarquin, Ghosts, Nameless Isle residents, and Ark's pilgrims all have something to say. One last quirk about Higba is that he panics and turns hostile anytime he encounters a magister outside of Driftwood. This is going to be a big problem, because our next party member is Mihaly. As Almira approaches you, Higba becomes hostile and starts fighting with Mihaly. It's good comedy, but this is counterproductive since we're collecting party members. To prevent this, take Higba to the Lady Vengeance and tell him to unfollow you. The game treats him like an item at this point, which allows him to transition from act to act. Mihaly is a former magister that's currently in a relationship with the succubus Almira. They're stuck here in what's left of Paradise Downs, and you can help them in 2 ways. You can either take out the Harbinger of Doom first, or you can escort them out of Paradise Downs. To keep them, we need to escort them, so let's take the dialogue options to indicate that you'll clear a path first. Heal Mihaly up using a bedroll to get around the decaying effect. On the way out, you'll usually hit a Voidwoken encounter near the end of their escape. There's also nothing stopping you from taking out the Harbinger of Doom while they're in the party, but this does not complete the quest anymore. The easiest way to break Mihaly's quest is to go past the Harbinger of Doom to the northwest, teleport Mihaly over to that cliff, and jump to him. Talk to Mihaly, and ask him to stop following. Almira is going to get angry at what happens next, so distract her with another character. Go to a good vantage point, and then teleport Mihaly to the other side. For good measure, teleport him again. After that, you can ask him to follow you again and he'll stick with you. Mihaly's stats and 6 points in Huntsman indicate he's a perfectly generic ranger. And that's okay. His strength and intelligence are high enough to equip everything you could ever want. As for his skills, he has a couple of innate ones: First Aid and Ricochet. As you travel with Mihaly, Almira will follow him the whole time. She is a skill book vendor on the go, so that's convenient. Almira is a bit of a loose cannon though. When she encounters some, but not all, magisters, she'll start attacking them. It's not as bad as Higba since it doesn't stop Mihaly from following. Almira also has a strange behavior when you approach the Ancestor Tree in Blood Moon Isle. She declares you as an intruder, and she'll even attack if you're still close to the tree. I wonder if the game treats her as a Black Ring character. Mihaly has a trick of his own. Normally when you dismiss him, he doesn't act as a vendor yet. But if you dismiss him on the Lady Vengeance, he becomes a vendor, and he'll still follow you again if asked. Do this once, and he will always be a trader while dismissed. We can use this. First, dismiss him. Then trade with him and buy out all of his potions. When he re-follows you, he still has his money as a vendor, but it counts as shared gold in the party. Drop or store all of the gold in your party's inventory, then trade with a vendor. It'll show that you have money. This is what's in Mihaly's inventory. Add items from the merchant that meets or exceeds Mihaly's money, and then balance offer. This moves Mihaly's money to your bag, and then you can cancel the transaction. Next up is Saheila. You first meet her all the way in Fort Joy, and then later encounter her tied up by Roost at the Lone Wolf's camp. After defeating Roost and his mercenaries, you can then talk to Saheila and leave with her. Once you get far enough away from the sawmill, she will leave your party and head over to the Elven camp. Unlike Higba and Mihaly, you can't dismiss Saheila. Additionally, she starts off in a small room, so breaking her quest by teleporting her to the destination isn't an option. So we'll just have to do something unconventional. You need at least 2 characters in your party for this, preferably both with teleport. It's possible with only 1 teleport user, but it's harder to fix mistakes. Let's teleport Saheila as close to the back wall as possible near the window. Precision is important, but we can adjust later if the second character can teleport. Prepare for the Item Fling by setting the game to the absurdly low frame cap. Place the pyramid on the ground near the back wall, and toss the pyramid through the wall using an Item Fling. Once the pyramid is out of bounds, set the frame cap back to normal for your own sanity. With your character that has teleport, use a pyramid to teleport to that out of bounds pyramid. Pick it up so that you don't lose it. Notice that there's a little cliff here. That's our next goal. Place your cursor a little bit behind that cliff and click to move and quickly right click to cancel. You'll know you have it right when your character takes a step or 2. Repeat this carefully until you're on top of the cliff. You'll see that you're now overlooking Meister Siva's basement. With your character on the cliff, cast teleport and double click on the portrait of the character back in Roost's room. If Saheila is positioned correctly, she will be highlighted in yellow. Double click on the caster's portrait to bring the camera back to Meister Siva's basement, and then teleport to Saheila over there. Walk over and talk to her to recruit her. Since she is outside of the sawmill area, she will stay with you as you go. When you first look at Saheila's stats, things look promising. While she is inflicted with permanent blindness, she has 40% resistances across the board, good armor values, decent all-rounder stats, and a whopping 8 points in Hydro and Perseverance. However, save and reload the game and the truth rears its ugly head. While she still has her resistances and good base armor, her stats get a lot worse, as do her skill levels. She's even unable to cast Arcane Stitch, which she comes with. Her stats are bad enough to limit her armor options. You'll need to focus on a stat to wear end-game armor. She also has a couple of innate skills, Flesh Sacrifice and Spirit Vision. Spirit Vision's a nice touch, but not particularly useful. She also comes with Memorized Skills, which takes up her already limited memory slots. You can still make her useful by adding some area of effect and support spells, but she doesn't give you much to build around. Later, on the Nameless Isle, if you have Sibyl in your party, something interesting happens. As you're talking to the Mother Tree, you'll see Saheila disappear from your group. After you leave, it turns out she has changed her appearance. After a quick conversation, it seems like she no longer moves on her own. She is still controllable and comes with you as you enter areas, so she's still considered a follower. Speaking of the Nameless Isle, it's about time for us to go there. First, if you hate yourself, you can take Peeper with you. Second, go to the Lady Vengeance. Make sure that everyone except Higba is following you on the ship, since anyone outside of the ship will be left behind. You can quickly gather everyone by going below decks and coming back up. Make sure Higba is parked on the Lady Vengeance, and then talk to Malady. Go through the dialogue, and you'll transition to the next act. One of the first things you might notice is that Almira is missing. As far as I know, she always disappears at this point, but you should have everyone else. Now's a good time to check on Higba's barrel. As you're journeying on the Nameless Isle, you'll see a familiar face. It's Delorus! He's first seen in Act 1 being tortured by the Houndmaster for information. You can then save him and he'll appear now. Before we talk to Delorus, if you have Higba with you, Higba will panic at Delorus much like he panicked at Mihaly. Anyway, talk to Delorus and he follows you with the intent of regrouping with the other Magisters here. He has a quick scene at Magister Pierce's corpse, where Delorus will either become permanently encouraged, or permanently enraged. You escort him to the Temple of Tyr Sindelius, and he leaves the party to hang out with our good friend Alexander. The quest is complete. Later on the Nameless Isle, you'll find Delorus dead from battling the Black Ring. Let's not do that. Delorus is by far the easiest temporary party member to break, and was the first one I found. Avoiding the Temple of Tyr Sindelius is easy, so progress the game until we reach the Academy. We hit a snag as we enter. Delorus has disappeared. As it turns out, he has spawned back in his original location. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking perhaps the developers didn't intend for me to collect temporary party members. There's an easy way to get him past the Academy doors though. All you need is a character to run off and recruit Delorus while another character progresses the game to the Arena of the One. That's it. That's a skip. Almira may or may not join us for this battle. This doesn't always happen. I believe the trigger for this is if the last time you dismissed and recruited Mihaly was on the Lady Vengeance in this act. There's a very clear reason why the game does this, and that's because... I have no clue, honestly. It just happens. Anyway, back to Delorus for a moment so that we can take a look at his stats. He's a well-built archer that has good armor values, about 40 finesse, stats to equip everything ever, and he has more memory than he probably needs. He also has 10 points in Huntsman with 2 in Warfare. Seems quite good, right? Well, I've got some bad news for you. Saving and reloading the game nerfs his skill levels down to a single point in Huntsman. His stats are still pretty godlike though. You'll just need to make up for his skill levels with equipment. He has a handful of innate skills: First Aid, Glitter Dust, Tactical Retreat, Blinding Radiance, and Electric Discharge. With a ton of memory, you can stack him with a bunch of Huntsman skills and still have room to add more. If you chose to Encourage instead of Enrage, it might make sense to add some arrow skills as well to help complement and boost his innate ones. He has decent enough intelligence to make this work in a pinch. There's one last temporary party member. That's Alexander. Assuming he's alive, he will appear in the Academy. With a whopping 6-point persuasion check, you can get him to give up his hopes and dreams for Divinity and support you. Before we move on, let's check something very important. Alexander is the head bishop of the Magisters, and the reason why sorcerers are being imprisoned in the first place. As you might imagine, Higba's reaction to Alexander is precisely what you would expect. Higba is perfectly fine with Alexander. No issue whatsoever. They might even be besties. With that out of the way, let's proceed to the Arena of the One. Alexander joins you for the duration of this battle. It's a race to the finish as the player heads over to the Wellspring. Arriving at the Wellspring triggers a cutscene where Dallas will express her intent to take the Wellspring source for herself, and she'll ensure Alexander has a comically short redemption arc. I tried very hard to break this cutscene. Your characters and Alexander are stuck in dialogue, but the other temporary party members can mess with this scene. The results range from being completely useless to even soft-locking the game, so we're only left with one option. We have to skip this cutscene. Backpedaling before the cutscene, I recommend you clear out the enemies first. After that, let's go over to the northwestern part of the map. We will need a mouse and keyboard for what's next. Toss a teleporter pyramid over to this out-of-bounds ledge. This should work with no tricks or telekinesis. Have a character teleport to that spot and pick up the pyramid. The camera is now unlocked when we select this character. With a different character, go to this desk with a scenic view. make sure that character has a teleporter pyramid. Select the portrait of the out of bounds character and look way over to the northeast. That cliff is where we want to go. Select the portrait of our desk side assistant and perform a Queue Shikifling to that cliff. We want the pyramid a little past the edge of the map. This still works as long as it's in the line of sight. After tossing the pyramid, I recommend bringing the desk side assistant back to the rest of the group. We'll see why later. With the out of bounds character, teleport to the pyramid we Queue Shikifling? Is that the past tense? Anyway, you should be now out of bounds overlooking some fascinating geometry. We are actually overlooking the Lady Vengeance at the end of the act. We can use a series of tricks to get there, but it's not very useful as Melody has absolutely nothing to say to us, preventing us from progressing. Back to the out of bounds zone, we'll set our sights to the other weird area. This is the map representing the ruined arena of the One. Perform a Queue Shikifling to this corner and teleport. Then scroll all the way to this corner, perform another Queue Shikifling and teleport. Once in this corner, rotate the camera to help align our position with the ruined arena of the One. This time, set up for an Item Fling and lag the game. With the game lagging, set down the pyramid and attempt to toss it somewhere in this direction. If you're in a position where you're stuck, you may need to use another Item Fling or try again from a previous save. We landed over here, which is good. Go over here and just walk. Don't worry about the lava. It's just decoration. Once you're here, now is a very good time to save the game. Proceed to move to the next part of the story. If you notice, there's only one embodiment here. Where are the others? Well, as it turns out, the other embodiments spawn near our other party members. There's ones for Sibyl, Losa, Thane, and will you look at that? Alexander gets his own too. At this point, just finish the battle on the full party side for now. Once you finish that battle, you can focus on the one that's actually taking place where it's supposed to. You can teleport the rest of your party as reinforcements to make that easier. After finishing that battle, head over to progress the game as normal. The sequence has successfully been broken, and Alexander is right there. Everyone is here, even Higba in his barrel. Let's take a moment to go over Alexander's stats. His stats are mediocre, but he does have fantastic armor and has a Faith Aura which provides an extremely good damage boost to nearby allies. He gets points just for existing. His skill levels have 2 points in Arrow and Leadership, as well as having a huge 9 points in Perseverance. But, like Delorus and Saheila, he gets hit with a nerf bat on save and reload. His stats and skill levels get worse. Things are not so dire with him. While he doesn't have a lot of memory to work with, he has a truckload of innate skills. Besides being an all-around good support set, he has 2 noteworthy unique skills. Alexander's Blessing is Bless on steroids and costs no AP, while he also has a Resurrection spell for only 2 AP. The description is a liar and actually seems to resurrect people at full health. Neat! You can build him as a support character, or you can try giving him some offensive spells. I recommend Arrow since that's what he starts with. Anyway, it's time to do everything you need to do on the Lady Vengeance and progress to the final act of the game. We're now here, so let's check on our party. Firstly, Delorus has leveled up to 18. If you take a look at his gear also levels up to 18. This is an interesting property shared with the Fletcher Corbin Day. Also, Saheila is missing. Checking where she is reveals she's near the Ark's Cathedral, where she would normally spawn. Her pathfinding is wonky like on the Nameless Isle, but you can still control her. If you give her a teleporter pyramid, you can even use her to skip a huge section of the city. Now let's check up on Higba and add him to our party. Be careful, he will still panic at the sight of our allied Magisters. In order to optimize the user interface clutter, you can add a summon into the mix. Mihaly and Alexander don't do anything particularly interesting. Almira seems to have disappeared again, though. With everyone in tow, we can now finish off our adventure with an absurdly large party. This definitely turned out to be a much longer guide than I expected. If you got this far, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it.